No, Star Trek. Spock the game. We're not gonna get a signal. We're not gonna get a signal.
I told my mom this thing finishes at 9 earliest.
Is your mom still pissing off?
As James is still dealing with his feedback and adjudication, if the audience has any questions for the two teams, feel free.
Regarding the topic or regarding the competition?
Anything. Hopefully regarding aliens.
What does team opposition think of the Force?
Come to the dark side.
Well, the Force, yes. We know about the dark side. No, not that side. The team opposition is saying the light side. Those lightsabers you've always wanted, well, vouch for us. You'll get it.
Alright guys, now first of all, a big thank you for both sides and every speaker in the room today for a fantastically entertaining debate. Thank you very much. Now, I find it rather strange that I have to give very serious comments on a very entertaining debate about aliens, which I don't really know of, and can't really claim that I've seen aliens myself. So I would basically say that this entire debate fell down to one single thing. And it's that this side assumes that every single alien is a Jedi, and this side assumes that every single alien is a Sith Lord. Basically, we've seen a huge galactic battle between the Galactic Republic, led by the Jedi Council, that eventually got wiped out by the Sith Lords. On the other hand, the Galactic Empire, which basically will kill all of us. Sort of CIA conspiracy theory that we all buy into. Now, before we actually get into the real feedback, just like a show of hands, who actually supports side proposition actually winning this debate?
No, I don't know.
Alright, who supports side opposition?
I don't know.
Okay, who can't decide until I say something? I feel powerful. Okay, right. Essentially, this debate boils down to two major issues. First of all, it's can we trust the aliens? And second of all, even if we do trust them, are there going to be practical benefits for the human race as a whole? So first of all, let's begin with this idea of can we trust the aliens? Now, in side proposition today, we heard this very strong idea of how aliens are different. They're powerful strangers. We know they're technologically advanced and they have a huge cultural clash. Now, throughout history, when different kinds of civilizations have a huge cultural clash with us, and they're vastly technologically advanced than us, they'll tend to attack us. They gave us a lot of human examples of how Spanish explorers, the Red Indians, all of these kinds of civilizations being wiped out in face of a civilization vastly technologically advanced with a huge cultural clash. On the other hand, on opposition, we heard three major arguments. Now, the first one was that we need courage. In kindergarten, when we see other children, we need courage to talk to these strangers, we need courage to talk to these kinds of children, and then we're going to be happier when we actually talk to them. And the immediate idea that came up in my mind, as well as quite a few of us sitting back there, isn't necessarily similar when you're actually talking to an alien that looks like a dinosaur, and a baby that kind of looks like having the same biological composition as you, such as when I look at Brian Wong. Now, are you sure about that? Impromptu speeches, we already know that he has no friends in kindergarten, but this argument doesn't apply to him. But otherwise, now, overall, I think that in fact this argument could be quite strong if they developed it more. Is it necessarily just in kindergarten, it's just small children, or could it be applied to other situations? Can we hear more? And the second argument that came up was this idea that, well, the fact that they're trying to establish first contact means they're willingly establishing a diplomatic relationship with us, and therefore they're good people. Now again, we start to question this idea, because we wanted to ask, okay, if you're willingly establishing a diplomatic relationship with me, and just talking to him and saying, I'm much better than you, And if you don't talk back to me, you can refuse to talk to me, but then I'm still better than you. That's basically what the aliens are saying. So we want to ask, okay, is this necessarily a justification for saying they're good? And we heard a huge rebuttal, especially the second speaker on side proposition on this, saying that in fact, the fact that they're willingly establishing a diplomatic relationship does not necessarily mean that they're going to be good aliens. So again, we heard quite a bouncing back and forth on this particular argument. And third of all, we think it's the strongest argument against everything that the side proposition has brought up, especially that was brought on the second speaker. This idea that doesn't make sense, does it? If they want to attack you in the first place, a first strike, as we already see in games, computer games, all that sort of stuff, a first strike is always more successful compared to contact. Now, in contrast to this, side proposition came back again with two arguments, which he thought was also pretty good. The first one was that, well, as I already said, first contact does not necessarily mean that they're willingly establishing a good relationship, does not necessarily mean they're good to you. The second idea is that, well, isn't first strike necessarily the best option for them? They might have just discovered us, or, as I already said, it takes them too much resources to actually take so many galactic ships and come in and attack us. So they might have to infiltrate us and have this sort of CIA conspiracy theory kind of thing, where they'll infiltrate into us and talk to us and then convince us to become over-dependent on them, as I'll learn later on. So he thought that in fact this idea of can we trust the aliens is all based on the idea of uncertainty, all based on the idea of risk, and we thought that both sides gave us very imaginative arguments. Now the second clash on this was whether practically, even if we trust them or not, is it going to be better for us? On side proposition, we heard this idea that, well, that first of all exploit our natural resources, that we become over-dependent on them, simply because they're so technologically more advanced. Second, which we thought was a very, very interesting idea, the idea of public health, and the idea that alien diseases might come to us and actually create a sort of alien form of AIDS as they came from monkeys in the first place. So we thought this was a very, very nice argument. We thought they elaborated throughout the two benches very well. The hand-side opposition, they responded with two not necessarily directly clashing arguments. First one is that we could build an intergalactic alliance, not necessarily enough elaboration, we thought. We wanted to hear more. How do you bypass that sort of first contact and then get into an intergalactic alliance, as you already see in Star Wars and the Galactic Republic? We want to know more about that. And second, they said that we need this alliance to understand more about them and gain that knowledge to understand how we're going to deal with them, which I thought was quite a good idea, but nevertheless did not get enough engagement throughout this debate, and because the format limits the second speakers of actually being able to oppose each other. So I thought that overall, on these two clashes, both sides actually brought up reasonable, imaginative arguments, and we thought it was quite nice. But at the end of the day, just a bit of opinion on this entire motion. And it's this idea that this entire motion is about manipulating uncertainties. Is that in this entire motion, there are many kinds of uncertainties, such as, are they truly technologically more advanced than us? They claim to be, but the only thing we can be sure of is that they are capable of intergalactic travel, and we're not. Is this necessarily the best thing they can do? Can we actually be sure of that? Which I thought could have been brought up from this. And second of all, that in every single case, especially in this debate, we're judging these alien creatures based on human nature, and it's based on our own assumptions about them. On proposition, we heard a sort of conspiratory idea that appeals to every one of us, every reasonable being, that everyone who is more powerful than us wants to attack us, and everyone wants to kill us. On the other hand, on side opposition, is this great ideological, ideal idea that in fact they want to all save us, they want an alliance, they're all Jedis and Yodas, they want to save all of us from this sort of technological backwardness. The same motivations behind them to actually attack us. We want to understand more. What is so inherently good about humans? What is there within our human nature, as well as what we possess in this entire world, that actually deserves these aliens of giving us contact, which I thought could be explored in this motion as well, as some great ideals of what humans are all about. So overall, I thought this was a very imaginative debate, so I'll just announce the results right now. Because I think that, in fact, although both sides were very imaginative, the crucial part of any debate is how you can actually manipulate with these uncertainties and actually crush all of the arguments on the other side. And I thought that this side was side proposition. As you know, in this tournament, it's not simply the sides who wins this debate, but also who is the best speaker overall in this debate. And though I thought that every single speaker here is truly a representative team and representative speaker of Hong Kong, I thought in this debate, there was one speaker who was able not only to give us a very imaginative, stylistic kind of idea in giving us what aliens are all about, but also use this sort of imagination to crush the other side's arguments in a very elaborate and consistent way. And I thought this was the second speaker on side proposition. Thank you very much again.
Right, I don't want to drag